Welcome to Spine Chilling Chats podcast, where we like to spill the tea. If you're into the macabre and enjoy hearing about true crime, supernatural, or spooky experiences, pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready for some spine chilling chats with Manda and Ange.
Hi to all the spooks out there. I'm Ange.
And I'm Manda.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. It's awesome that we found each other.
Oh, yes, it is.
If this isn't your first time, it's awesome that you're still here.
Yes, thank you.
Really, it's really cool to see that we're starting to reach more people from more than just our local area. We have listeners from California to New York now, and many states in between.
Yes.
We also have a few listeners all the way from Sweden.
Woo.
This is really what we were striving for, to bring spooks from all over the world together and create a community where we can share a macabre sense of humor and our morbid fascination with true crime, the paranormal, and just everything spooky with one another without being labeled as being weird or unhinged.
Right. Yes.
So thank you to everyone for listening each week. We really appreciate all of the love and support we've been shown so far. But enough of the mushy shit. We've got another action-packed episode of Spine Chilling Chats just for you. We're taking a look into the life of Charles Schmid, a.k.a. the Pied Piper of Tucson, a.k.a. Schmitty.
The Pied Piper. I like that.
Yeah, Pied Piper of Tucson.
I wonder if he played the pipe for all the rats.
No.
Oh.
No, he just collected a little band of misfits.
Ah.
Yeah. And since we're in the month of July, good old Smitty gets the honor of being the subject of our episode today. So let's get to it. Charles Howard Schmid, Schmid Jr., was born July 8th, 1942 in Tucson, Arizona, to a single mother. I could not find anything on her, like really not even her name. But she did put Charles up for adoption, which I assume in 1942 wasn't an uncommon thing for a single woman who found herself pregnant to do.
Okay.
Like that's...
Here we go again with
yeah.
orphanages, adoptions.
You know, I'm starting to wonder, maybe
it is. Like
maybe it is
an adoption or orphanage thing.
A reason
to be crazy.
Yeah. Like, keep your kids or they're going to go psycho.
Right. They're going to be serial killers.
There was such a stigma about unwed pregnancies back then. I imagine she probably went away to a relative pregnant and came back not.
The good old-fashioned ways.
The good old ways. He was adopted at just a day old by Charles Howard Schmid Sr. and his wife, Catherine Schmid, which I think that's so sweet that they adopted this baby and they made him a junior. Like,
oh,
they're like, this is our baby.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet. I wish he had been a better person.
Right. Like, you had somebody adopt you at 1 day old and gave you the name Junior, and you turned out to be an asshole. Yeah. Like, thanks. Thanks for ruining my name, too.
Yeah, right. They were proprietors of a Hillcrest nursing home right there in Tucson. So good old Smitty grew up with money.
Lots of grandmas and grandpas?
No. He grew up with money. So... he was kind of spoiled, never needing to worry about money, just got whatever he wanted. What seemed like a promising home for Smitty turned into a broken home when his adopted parents divorced when he was just 4 years old.
They put him back in the orphanage?
No.
Jesus.
Apparently, he and his father had a tough relationship that sometimes ended with violent arguments. Smitty didn't do very well in school academically, but was still considered intelligent, well-mannered, and good-looking.
Ooh.
Now, I've seen his picture. I don't find him attractive. Like, I can see it. I can see why some people would, but what he does to himself makes him ugly.
What's his name again?
Charles Schmid.
Charles.
Mm-hmm. He never got into trouble either in school. He was well behaved. He also did well in sports.
Oh, yeah, I saw his picture.
Excelling in gymnastics, even leading his high school to the state championship. He competed in the flying rings and still rings competition, winning first place in both.
Those rings are hard.
Yeah, so he was...
He's muscular then.
Yeah, he was really good. Like, he took his team to the championship.
I do say, I remember seeing his picture now, and he's not extra cute, but he does have very pretty eyes.
Yes. Well, yeah, like, you can see where some people might
find him
attractive.
But no.
But I personally do not.
Absolutely not.
He also placed in the long horse and earned 5th place on the horizontal bar.
Okay.
So he's really
That's
good at gymnastics.
A lot of strength.
Yeah. Later, Smitty would describe why he liked gymnastics in the first place. And this is quote, "The thing that kept me fascinated with gymnastics was that it frightened me." He said, "If I slipped or fell, that could be the very last time."
Oh.
Which, like, you see some of the things that they do, and it...
Yeah, but that's kind of...
Morbid,
yes. He was a fucked up person.
Maybe he's emo, okay?
Maybe.
He thinks about death.
All the time.
He did end up quitting the team in his senior year.
Aw.
Yeah, I don't know
I hate
why.
when that happens. My son quit. Like, he played baseball his whole freaking life. And his senior year of high school, didn't play.
Was he just overwhelmed with everything?
No, I mean, he was a very busy kid. You know, like, he
did
plays
a lot, multiple sports.
Of sports. But he just didn't want to play because I think the coaches. But, like, you played your whole life, and it was your
senior year.
Your senior year. You played all through high school, junior high. You know, you're younger. But when you play in high school, it's like a big deal.
Yeah.
He didn't want to play his senior year. And it was heartbreaking.
No.
And I'm like, dang it, he don't care.
No.
To him, it's not a big deal. But I hate it when people do that. I hate it when kids are like, I'm not playing my senior year. Well, you played the last 3 years. Like,
I'm invested.
Right. It's not about you anymore. It's about me.
Yes.
Damn it.
With all that, his good looks, his doing well in gymnastics, his money, with all that and a rich daddy going for him, he was still very insecure.
I don't like how you said rich daddy.
Well, he is a rich daddy.
That's just...
I mean, he's a rich mommy too. They're rich. They're loaded.
You
they
made
got
it
money.
sound real like
sexual,
dirty.
Well,
rich daddy.
I wish I had a rich daddy, but I do not. I gotta work my job here. Smitty was a man of short stature, reaching only 5'3".
Ooh.
I'm 5'3", and I'll vouch for him that it's pretty damn short. Like for a dude,
it is short.
It's not very common that I find a guy that is
as tall
my
as
height.
you.
Yeah, everybody's always taller than me.
Everybody's taller than me.
Well, yeah, you're what?
5'1"? No, just 5 foot.
Even.
But yeah, it's very rare that you find a guy that short.
Yeah. He was very insecure about it. So he would take socks and rags and crushed tin cans. Like, this can't be comfortable. But anyways, he would take those and stuff them in his cowboy boots to help add a couple of inches to his height.
Oh, my.
Like, how could he walk around on that?
I don't know.
That had to be so uncomfortable.
I don't even like walking in like 1-inch heels.
No, me neither.
Let alone on that kind of stuff.
I don't see how he did this. It wasn't just his height he was vain about. He would also use lip balm, which, okay, maybe he had dry lips, whatever.
I mean, that's normal. Guys use lip balm.
Yeah.
Get it?
He dyed his red-brown hair black.
Okay. Maybe he just didn't like red hair.
He wore pancake makeup.
What is pancake makeup?
Okay, so I looked it up, and it's like pressed powder, but they used it a lot in like theatrical
So it's like
stuff.
white?
I don't think it's quite white, but it's
Very
like
pale?
it's thick stuff.
Oh.
Like it's
Oh.
yeah. So,
Okay.
So it's
Okay, I get what you're saying.
yeah. It's
So he wore makeup.
yeah, not attractive.
So now the lip balm's questionable.
Yeah, and he created an artificial mole on his cheek. So if you look at any of the pictures and he's got this huge spot on his cheek,
Ugly.
he created that. That's not real.
It's ugly.
It totally
would not-
destroys.
Most people would have that removed.
Yeah, it's not attractive.
No.
If you look at the picture of him online where he has the mole on his face, it's just ridiculous looking. I immediately, when I saw it, I thought of Fred Savage's character, the mole in Austin Powers, Goldmember. And Austin just can't ignore the mole on his face. And he's just like, bam, right there.
Mole, mole, mole.
Yeah, guacamole. If you haven't seen that, look it up. It's funny. He also would stretch his bottom lip with a clothespin, trying to stretch it out so he could imitate his idol, Elvis Presley.
So you stretch your
He's trying to stretch his lip so it did that. Yeah.
That's dumb. Just move your lips like he moves his lips.
He couldn't. He had to find a different way.
But wasn't it his top lip that
Oh, well, maybe. No, he said he stretched his bottom lip.
Elvis's top lip is the one that did it? Wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so why is he stretching his bottom lip, dummy?
He's stupid.
Go take your artificial mole and your stretched wrong bottom lip and go on somewhere.
Everything changed in 1960, his senior year of high school. He stole tools from his welding class and ended up being suspended. He decided to just not go back, calling it quits.
Oh, okay.
Like, I made it this far.
Right.
Eh,
Might as well just fucking...
Good enough. With no gymnastics, no routine of school, no job, and no high school diploma, Smitty took up residence in a small house on his adoptive mother's property.
I was going to say, it's not like he needed a job anyway because he was rich.
Yeah. She also gave him a $300 a month allowance.
On top of living for free.
Yes.
And I'm sure he went up to her house and got food because, I mean, I still go to my parents' house and get food.
But back then, $300 a month is equivalent to $3,130 today.
Wow.
A month. Just an allowance. $3,000 a month.
Wow.
That's like what I bring home from working. More combined.
Yeah.
With my husband.
Yeah. Holy shit. Well, I mean, he didn't have to work then at all. So I guess the high school diploma is irrelevant.
It's just ridiculous. The guy already has a fancy car and motorcycle, thanks to mommy and daddy.
Mm-hmm.
When everything has been handed to you without any effort of your own, I can only imagine the sense of entitlement and superiority that he had. Like,
of course.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't. $3,000 a month.
$3,000.
Fuck him. and
I couldn't even get $3 out of my parents a week.
Yeah. No, I don't think we even got an allowance.
We got an allowance. I just don't remember how much it was. Wasn't much.
No.
We used it to go skating every Friday, so it was gone anyway.
Yeah. I didn't have money until I got a job when I was, 15 or 16.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, my parents, we were not rich. We were not rich by any means, but if we needed something, they gave it. If we wanted, not needed, if we wanted something.
Well, yeah, we could earn money doing like odd jobs. I wouldn't say it was an allowance though. Like we didn't get money every week. We had to, like, we could, rake the leaves or something.
See, we didn't have to do that. My mom said as long as we were in sports, we couldn't have a job. Because we played sports, we'd practice and stuff. So she said as long as you played sports, she would give us money. So if we wanted to go out with our friends, I'm just like, hey, can we have $20? And she'd just give it to us.
Oh, my parents didn't care about sports. They cared about academics. So, like, for every A that we got on our report card, we would get X amount of money. I don't remember what it was. Not much, but, And if we got straight A's, then we got more.
Oh, yeah. See,
And we were not allowed to have below a C. If we got a C, we were in trouble.
well, we couldn't have bad grades playing sports anyways, or else you couldn't play.
Yeah.
So we always had good grades. Well, I did. My sister didn't really care for school.
No.
She still went and graduated and whatnot, but she's not a school person.
Yeah. So Smitty, he was just, he had no goals, nothing to do. And there's an old saying that idle hands are the devil's tools.
Uh-huh, I've heard that.
And so I think this plays out to be pretty true for good old Smitty. Even though his high school friends had graduated, he still liked to hang out with the younger kids that were still in school.
That's creepy.
Yeah. He threw parties at his tiny house on Mama's property. Smitty became something of a hero to the outcast kids. He was older and knew things that they hadn't even dreamed of knowing yet.
And he provided alcohol, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. He may have been strange, but he sure livened things up in a town where nothing of consequence ever happened. This is how he later earned the nickname the Pied Piper of Tucson. He liked to pick up the high school girls too, luring them into his fancy pants car. They would go to the Speedway, which was like the main drag in the Sleepy Desert city, where everybody just kind of congregated and
It's a
hung
hangout
out.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Race cars for pink slips. I don't know.
This isn't Greece.
I know.
He was
Damn
a compulsive liar, telling the girls that he had leukemia as a child, or he was almost sold into slavery at the border.
Oh, my God.
He bragged to girls that he knew 100 ways to make love,
Oh, Jesus.
that he ran dope, that he was a Hell's Angel, just crazy stories to try to earn the girls' sympathy or intrigue them enough in hopes that they would sleep with him. You know? Which it didn't take much to impress these teenage girls. You know?
Most of these teenage girls, you just say, hey, I'm rich. They'll sleep with you. You don't got
Yeah,
to come up with all
like,
these other
you
lies.
can just be like, this is my car. And they're like, okay, let's go to the back
Right.
seat.
This is my house.
It's
I
not
don't have
that
to work.
hard.
I got this much money.
He was also able to fool most parents by charming the mothers and meeting the fathers with impeccable manners, because he grew up with money, so he knows how to schmooze and play the part. He may have gotten into a little trouble here or there, but overall seemed to be a relatively normal guy.
Okay, see? He's, for the most part, so he's normal.
Yeah.
So what the fuck happened?
I think it wasn't that he was normal. I think that he played normal
Okay.
well.
Okay.
So
Well, I mean, he was a manipulative liar.
yeah, he was a
so-
compulsive liar. So, I think he just knew how to fool people. He was good at it. So, Smitty's best friend, Paul Graff, had been sent to a reformatory at Fort Grant Industrial School for killing a man during a robbery. This is his best friend. Paul eventually moved in with Smitty in his small house. During that time, Smitty dated several girls, and one was even married. When he wasn't chasing after girls, he took singing lessons and practiced playing the guitar, trying to become Elvis.
Oh,
here.
Jesus. Yeah, I forgot about that already.
Smitty made friends with another guy who had spent time at Fort Grant named Richie Bruns that Paul introduced him to. He had broken his probation, which got him arrested. Once he was out, he started drinking and committing petty thefts. So back to Fort Grant he went. After being released for good, they became close friends along with Smitty's other friend, John Saunders. And they all hung out together a lot. Then, when Smitty was 21, he finally found out he was adopted. So
he didn't know this whole time?
No, his parents never told him.
Oh, okay.
His adopted mom gave him his birth mother's name. He went searching for her, and when he found her, she supposedly told him, I didn't want you when you were born, or even before you were born, and I don't want you now. Get out.
Oh, my.
She then slammed the door in his face.
Okay, that was probably the turning point.
Smitty was, of course, hurt by her words, according to Richie. But it's hard to tell if he truly was or not, since Smitty did his best to always look like the victim to gain sympathy of those around him. But I can't imagine how that wouldn't have hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
see, that's why if I was ever adopted, I don't know if I'd want to look for my birth parents. They gave me up for a reason. They either couldn't take care of me, so I get that and I respect that, and I don't want to know them because they didn't care enough to keep me to get to know me. You know what I mean? To raise me. Even if it was because of money. Or if they didn't want me, why would I want to look for them now?
Yeah. And I think if they had wanted me to eventually contact them at some point, they would have made it an open adoption.
Exactly.
So if it was a closed adoption,
there's a reason for it, and I'm not interested.
Yeah. And
I have my parents. My parents treated me like their own.
Yeah.
Never once made me feel like I was adopted or an outsider, so why would I want to look for the person that gave me up?
Yeah, maybe you didn't have good adoptive parents.
Then I'd probably look for my real parents and be like, this is what you did to me.
Yeah, this is your fault.
This is your fault. You made me this way. Assholes.
No, but we do understand that there's multiple reasons why somebody may put a child up for adoption. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely. Because I when I was married, my ex and I talked about adopting. I still think about adopting. Like, I still would adopt a child. Not a baby. I used to want to adopt a baby, but like, I would adopt a child that's already in school. But I would still give that child a chance, you know? Like, I'm completely 100% for adoption.
Yep.
So
me too. Smitty liked to play the field, dating several girls at once, proposing marriage to several of them at the same time. God. He then would take money from them in exchange for his promise to take care of them. I'm not really sure what he needed their money for, since he was loaded with mommy and daddy's money.
Right.
He did not value women. They were toys to him, and they fell for every single line of his. He even once told a girl that he had murdered a guy who had killed his girlfriend in a car accident, cut off his hands, and buried him in the desert.
Because that would attract me to you. I'd be like, that? No, you're fucked up.
You're crazy. I don't want to date you.
Heck no.
On the evening of May 31st, 1964, 15-year-old Arlene Rowe was getting ready to go to bed early. She had an early class the next morning and needed to rest for an exam she was supposed to have later the next day. She was a pretty girl and did exceedingly well in school. She wanted to go to college to become an oceanographer. She was also described as being sensitive, liking romance novels, and long strolls in the desert at night. She had been going through a phase of teenage morbidity, often talking to her mom, who happened to be a nurse, about death. She had told her mom that she hoped that she would be reincarnated as a cat. Which, same.
Right. Like, that's... I don't know what I'd want to be reincarnated as.
I think I'd either want to be a cat or...
I think I'd want to be another human.
You do? I don't know.
So.
I think humans are pretty awful.
Oh, yeah, they're absolutely awful. But at the same time, you can talk and you can do things. As an animal, you can't talk and you can get hit by a car. You can as a human, but more likely as an animal because your dumbass is crossing the street when you shouldn't be. Or you get hunted.
I don't know. Because what if I end up a human and it's like I have a worse life than what I have now?
But what if you have a better life than what you have now?
I don't know. I'm not a gambler.
I'm not a gambler either, so yeah.
I'd rather just be a cat and get fed.
But if I knew I was coming back as another person, and I knew my past life, I would do everything I could to make it a better life.
But I don't think you get to remember. Not usually.
Well, how come some kids are like, in my past life, my name was Jessica?
Well, I know some little kids.
And I was killed by a serial killer named Charles.
Usually that ends, though. Like, once they get older, they lose those memories.
I don't know. I'd gamble it. I'm not a gambler, but I'd gamble it. I'd be another human.
That, or I think it would be kind of fun to be a bat. So I could fly.
Yeah. Fly anywhere.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think not a bird because people hunt birds.
Yeah.
And birds fly into windshields. Although my mom, one time, I was getting out of her car because I had driven her car somewhere. And she has an Explorer. And there was something on her headlight. And I was like, what's that black thing? What is stuck in her fucking headlight underneath, like where the headlight is underneath the hood and the headlight? Like it got stuck in the little thing. It was a fucking bat.
Aw.
I know. How do you hit a bat?
Was it dead?
It was dead.
Aw.
Yeah, it was dead. But I was like, that was something new to me. It got stuck underneath the hood and in between the hood and the headlight.
When I was in elementary school, I had noticed a smell in my bedroom, and I had a dresser, and like my top drawer, I kept my CDs in, and I opened up my drawer, and there was a dead bat in it.
How?
It must have gotten in there, and I had not realized it, and shut the drawer, and it died in there.
Oh, what did you do?
My dad took care of it.
I took care of the bat. I took the bat out of the...
No.
My stepdad just sat and watched me. Because I was like, guys, come look at this. Like, how the hell do you hit a bat? It was sad because it was his head that was stuck in between the...
Aww.
Yeah, so his body was like on the light. And I was like, what's that black thing? Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
I know, it was really sad.
Aline was wearing a black bathing suit and flip-flops, which was her normal go-to for around the house, which I thought that was kind of weird to just...
You wear your bathing suit around
the house? But maybe because they live in the desert and it's always hot.
Okay, well, it's hot in the summertime here, and I don't wear my bathing suit, but I wear bra and panties.
Maybe she was just wearing it as that.
Maybe, but why would she not just wear her bra and panties?
I don't know. Which was her normal go-to for around the house. She took a bath, washed her hair, and gave her mama a kiss goodnight. Her mom, Norma, remembered she had commented on Aline's fresh out of the bath fragrance and told her that she smelled so good and asked if she was wearing perfume. She said Aline responded, "No, Mom," laughing, "It's just me." And this just really hit me because it made me think of that it's amazing how such insignificant conversations can suddenly hold so much emotion after a tragedy. Knowing how this story ends, like, it really makes me stop and appreciate the little moments I have with my family.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so busy in the chaos of day to day that so many little moments come and go from memory until something horrific or tragic happens. A little later on, Norma checked in on Aline, sleeping peacefully before heading off to her night shift as a nurse at the Tucson hospital. And she had no idea that was the last time she would ever see her baby girl alive.
Yeah, like that's... You just brush those moments off, not thinking anything of it, and then something bad happens, and you're just like, I would give anything to have that moment again.
Yeah, and like I just
anything
think about...
Anything to smell my child's hair.
Yeah, smelling Rory, like... and that being the last time, like
anything having my son flip me off, like, you know what I mean? Even though like he's a good kid, but like he's an asshole too, you know, let's be real, but he's my asshole and I love him, and if his smart ass, even though sometimes it pisses me off, I would give anything to have that.
Yeah.
If something happened. You know what I mean?
You just, you know,
yeah, that's crazy.
Usually you just forget those little moments, and
yep.
Someday they might be all you have left.
Yep. So take it all in, guys.
Yep, take it.
Don't take it for granted.
Aline had become friends with a 17-year-old neighbor girl named Mary French. Norma didn't particularly like her daughter hanging out with her. Aline and Mary would hang out in the backyard a lot lately, smoking, talking, and giggling. I guess back then everybody smoked, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
Because I thought that was weird too. I was like, her mom just let her smoke in the backyard, but it was the 60s here.
Okay.
She really didn't like the boys that Mary hung around with either, which then consequently meant Aline hung around. Those boys included John Saunders and, you guessed it, Charles Schmid.
Good old Schmitty.
Schmitty. Norma recalled a time that Smitty had been racing up and down the street in his fancy pants car. And once he came to the house asking for Arlene, but she wasn't home. He looked at Norma so menacingly that she remembered his pinpoint eyes and feeling frightened of him. So she just had a little glimpse into who he really was.
Yeah.
Arlene had mixed feelings about Smitty. On one hand, she thought he was creepy and made her skin crawl. But on the other hand, he could be very sweet when he wanted to be, which most manipulators can.
Yeah, but I think creepy outweighs the good.
Yeah, if somebody gave me creepy vibes, even a little bit, I
See
don't
ya.
care how nice you seem to be, there's a reason.
Yep.
Smitty had a habit of collecting the misfits, calling them like the Pied Piper. They were both afraid of Smitty, but drawn to him at the same time. When John Saunders was a baby, he had really horrible allergies, causing his little body to become covered in scabs. To stop him from scratching and picking at him, John's parents would tie his hands and feet to the crib each night. And when he eventually was cured, he was so used to sleeping that way that he could not sleep without being bound by hand and foot. Which,
If you guys could see my face right now. Like, what?
yeah, so he had a condition that when he was really little, like baby, where he would get these scabs and he would be itchy. So to stop him from itching,
They tied him to the bed.
yeah, they tied his hands and his feet to the crib. Like, what parent would think that that's okay?
Right.
Like, okay, put little mittens on so he can't scratch himself.
Right.
Put a long sleeve.
And why you got to tie his legs? His legs, I mean, I guess you could rub your legs, rub your feet on your
Together.
legs to get him, but I guess I don't understand. He's a baby. He doesn't know to rub his legs onto each other.
Yeah, or swaddle him. If he's a toddler, put footed pajamas on and mittens.
Right.
Like, there's other
Wow.
ways, but whatever.
I guess that's why they're friends.
He later turned into a scrawny boy with bad eyesight. Other kids teased him, so he in turn teased the kids that were smaller than him. He also had severe asthma and very few friends. He did poorly in school and was constantly getting into trouble. The perfect misfit to follow Smitty.
Right.
Mary French was also not the most attractive person. Her face might have been pretty, but it somehow, people said, looked lumpy. Her body was shapeless, no curve in sight. She was a poor student as well and eventually just stopped going to school altogether. But the most damning thing about her was her obsession with Smitty.
Oh.
She would sit at home waiting for him while he went out with other girls. The problem when you don't have any self-esteem is when someone shows you even the most minuscule amount of attention, it's hard not to be overly excited about it. And
She was.
yeah, Smitty, looked at her, and so she
Is obsessed with him.
is obsessed. Yes.
Meanwhile, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And Smitty, not being stupid, he took advantage of this
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
fullest. And he called Mary into his little band of misfits. Early on the 31st, Smitty had told Mary to persuade Arlene into going out with his friend John. Arlene turned down the invitation. Smitty didn't like to be told no. He called Mary repeatedly that day to get her to talk Arlene into the date. Each time Arlene said that she could not go. She had an exam the next morning at school, and she was really, good at school, so
She wanted to go.
Yeah, she didn't want to mess it up. Smitty went to Mary's house with John at his side. Earlier, he had been saying how he wanted to kill a girl.
Oh.
He wanted to find out what it would be like to end a life and see if he could get away with it.
Okay, another person who is interested and curious about killing somebody. Why? Like we said before, we've never had that inkling of
No,
wanting to kill
not
somebody.
once.
So why do people have those things, those thoughts?
Because they're fucked up in the head. He had a couple of girls he contemplated being his first victim, and sweet Arlene Rowe was on that list.
Aw.
He planned to take her into a remote location, bludgeon her with a rock, and then bury her in the desert.
And this is Schmitty?
Yeah,
Okay.
Smitty.
Schmitty.
Schmitty. Mary complained that she tried to get Arlene to come, but Arlene wasn't cooperating. Smitty instructed Mary to find someone else then. He was restless with the need to kill someone. He needed to that night. Mary tried but could not find anyone. So she tracked down Arlene, who was visiting with a friend, and talked to her one last time. Arlene finally agreed to go, but told Mary she'd have to wait until her mom left for work that night. After Mary told the boys that Arlene was finally coming, John and Smitty got a shovel and put it in the trunk of the car. They drove around the town until they were sure Arlene's mom was gone. Mary went over and tapped on Arlene's bedroom window. Arlene came out barefoot and curlers in her hair. She had thrown a yellow checkered shift dress on her over her bathing suit and was carrying her shoes. Mary sat up front with Smitty, while Arlene and John shared the back seat.
And she was still in her curlers?
She was still in her curlers.
Why would she not take them out if she's going out?
Because she had to have nice hair for school the next day.
But she's going out with people.
I guess
She didn't care?
They didn't care back
Okay.
then. Because
All right.
I've seen in like other pictures of the 60s, you know, and they would just put like a scarf or something around their curlers and go out and do their business, their little errands.
Huh.
It just
Okay.
wasn't a big deal back then.
I guess not. People wouldn't do that nowadays.
No. Mary sat up front with Smitty while Arlene and John shared the back seat. They drove out to the desert by Gulf Links Road. Smitty went there often to drink and make out with girls. They walked for a while into the desert. Arlene didn't mind this. She took walks in the desert at night a lot. Then they found a wash where they could sit and talk. I had to look up what a desert wash was.
I was just going to
Because
ask.
I had no idea. And it's the area usually at the bottom of a canyon that's flat and dry the majority of the year, but will have severe flooding occasionally. So think of like a riverbed, what a riverbed would look like, all dried up with plants on either side.
Okay.
So it's just flat, dry,
Yeah.
with some deserty vegetation going up on
Okay.
the sides.
All right.
At some point, Smitty asked Mary to go back to the car to retrieve the radio. He went with her to the car, which I don't know why. I guess he was asking Mary to go back to the car with him, because then I didn't understand why he went with her. I just assumed he was asking her to go, but now that I read it again, I guess he was asking her to come with him to the car to get the radio,
Okay.
which it doesn't make.
No.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just
Right.
I just read that and I've understood it differently than what I originally did.
Okay.
He went with her to the car, but before they got there, they heard Arlene scream. Smitty instructed Mary to get into the car while he ran back to the wash. John was struggling with Arlene. Smitty told him to put his hand over her mouth. Smitty then took a guitar cord and bound Arlene's arms behind her back. Arlene asked why they were doing this to her. Smitty replied, "Mary wants us to. She hates you." Arlene, of course, continued fighting as Smitty led her further into the wash. He told John to take her bathing suit off, but John had trouble since, her arms were tied. Smitty untied her so they could get her clothes off. He put her shift dress on the ground and instructed her to lie on it. She did as she was told, not seeing a way out of this situation. Smitty then told John to go ahead, but she was crying so hard that he couldn't even kiss her. Smitty told John to then go take a walk, and Smitty then raped Arlene. When he was finished, he called for John to return. John saw Arlene stumbling to put her swimsuit back on. Smitty told John to rape her too. but John wasn't able to keep an erection. So he tried, but
Good. Fuck him.
he couldn't. She walked away further into the wash where the two boys followed her. Smitty picked up a rock with a pointed edge and handed it to John. John gave it back to Smitty, not having the stomach to carry out their plan. Smitty insisted that he return to the car and get Mary. Mary refused to go anywhere, so John went back to find Smitty. There, he saw Aline lying on her back on the ground, her face and head covered in blood. Smitty's hands were bloody as well, and blood covered the front of his shirt. He wanted to know where Mary was, and when John told him that she was in the car and she didn't want to come, Smitty then went to the car and told her, "We killed her." He also added, "I love you very much."
Oh my God.
Mary recalled later that he seemed to be very excited. The three of them then got the shovel out of the trunk, dug a shallow grave, then dumped her yellow checker dress into the grave, covered her body with sand, and tossed sand over her curlers that had flown off of her head during the attack. Smitty then took off his shirt and buried it in the sand along with the shovel. After they felt they had secured the scene and covered all the evidence, they went back to the car to wipe it clean of Aline's fingerprints. They created a story that Aline had agreed to go out with John that evening, but when they drove by to pick her up, she had not been home. Then they dropped Mary off and went their way, which that didn't make sense to me, because why would you even
Say that you went to pick her up?
Yeah, why would you even put yourself where you were at her house?
Right.
Trying.
You just would act like you were never even there.
Yeah,
I was
haven't-
never at her house. I don't know
No,
what you're
I
talking
didn't
about.
talk to her since school. Like,
Right.
why would you put yourself there?
Right.
That's stupid.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, why would you put yourself at her house after you just killed her, like, when nobody knew you were there?
Yeah, it's stupid. The next morning, when Norma returned home from work, she found her daughter was gone, without taking her purse or any clothing except for the bathing suit she had been wearing and the yellow shift dress.
Okay, I'm going to say something real quick.
What?
If my kid ever went missing, I don't think, like, I'd be like, oh, he only took that black and white shirt. I wouldn't know what was missing from his closet. He's got so many clothes. I would be like, oh, yeah, yep, that shirt's missing. Like,
Yeah.
how does
How are
she
you
know that
gonna-
the dress is missing? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't think I would know, like, what is he wearing? I don't know. He went missing while I was gone. I don't know what clothes he's missing. You know, like, he's got a shit ton. How would I
Yeah,
know what he's
that's
dressed
true.
in or
That's a
what he
good
took
point.
with him?
Yeah.
Okay. That's just my thought.
Yeah, it makes sense. Maybe her mom was really...
Paid attention?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a shitty mom and don't pay attention to my kid.
Maybe Aline had a very organized
Maybe.
closet. Like,
I have a boy. It's not very organized.
no. She tried to find Aline all day, but finally accepted that she needed the help of the police, and she contacted them. Norma told the police about a sex club at the high school that her daughter had described to her, in which young people were involved with drugs, perversions, and organized sex work.
Oh, my God.
The officer in charge said that this was one of the most far-fetched tales he had ever heard and did not buy it, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't have taken that serious either.
Like, seriously?
Yeah. An investigation failed to find any sign of such activities, which good for them for at least looking into it.
Right.
Mary French was questioned along with Smitty and John. Smitty took the other two out and made them repeat the story they had concocted, just to make sure that none of them would
Slip
Slip
and
up,
say,
yeah. A week later, Aline's father called Norma to tell her that he had a dream that their daughter had been murdered and left in the desert. Norma felt that
That's kind of
there was
creepy.
truth in the dream, and she just dogged the police, who insisted on better evidence before they went, looking into such a vast area.
Right.
They're, just because you have a dream doesn't mean they can put all of the money and energy and resources into scouring
The desert.
a desert. Like,
But that is kind of creepy.
it is. I
mean, but that's that intuition. That's the parents' intuition.
Yeah. I just got chills.
I know. Like, ugh.
By March, when nothing had turned up, Norma Rowe went to Arizona's Attorney General and the FBI. She also called in reporters and would not give up. Despite the police attitude that Arlene was just another teenage runaway, Norma even consulted a psychic, but nothing came of it. And in the case of Arlene Rowe, was soon buried by the police under other, more pressing concerns. More than a year passed since Norma had first reported Arlene missing, and the police had searched for her, for a while at least. At Norma's insistence, they even brought Schmid in, but they had no grounds to hold him. The police, in fact, still assumed that Arlene was just one more of Tucson's runaways. Norma, however, deep down in her heart, knew Arlene had been killed. Like, you just know.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're a parent, you just...
Because
you know your kid isn't the runaway type. You know she wouldn't just leave. So
and even though you're not next to that person, it's like twin intuition. Like, you just, a piece of you can feel a piece of you missing. A piece of you dies. And even if you don't know that they're dead, you know that they're dead.
yeah.
Like, it's weird.
Yeah, she knew. Norma, however, deep down in her heart, knew that she had been killed. The only person she could see doing it was Smitty. She still had that one little shred of hope, though, that Arlene would come home, and she left her kitchen light on every night just in case.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
I just cannot imagine what this poor mama is going through. She is doing everything, and she can, and the police just aren't taking her seriously.
Yeah.
Norma didn't take that label as runaway. So she badgered the police and she badgered the sheriff until the authorities began to just dismiss her as being crazy. She began to imagine...
Why is it always the woman that's crazy, though? Like, I know my kid is missing. I know my kid is dead. But you just brush me off like I'm crazy. Why is it always got to be, oh, you're crazy? Not, oh, you might be right.
Yeah.
And you make me crazy. Because you're not doing shit about it.
Because you're not trying to find my child.
And you think I'm just crazy. And that's what makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Fucking men.
She began to imagine a high-level conspiracy against her. She wrote to the state attorney general, the FBI, the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. She even contacted a New Jersey mystic who said she could see Arlene's body out in the desert under a big tree. Norma started her own investigation, questioning kids that had been friends of her daughter's, poking around, snooping for clues, even following Smitty at night in her car, hoping to catch him doing something. Which I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
If I don't feel like the police are doing anything,
right,
you best believe I'm going to go to work and...
But I wouldn't think it's a conspiracy against me.
No.
That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I would be doing stuff too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not going to do shit about it? I am. And when I find out what happened and I do something about it, you better not come at me.
Yeah.
Because I tried to tell you.
During this time, Smitty decided he liked blondes best.
Oh, my.
He started dyeing the hair of the many girls he was seeing. He went out and bought 2 fake diamond rings for about $13 each and then engaged himself on the same day to both Mary French and to a 15-year-old girl named Kathy Morath. His plan, he told a friend, was to put each of the girls to work and have them deposit their paychecks in a bank account held jointly with him. Mary French did go to work in the nursing home Smitty's parents owned. When their bank account was fat enough, Smitty withdrew the money and bought a tape recorder. By this time, Smitty also had a girl from a higher social status than he usually messed around with, Gretchen Fritz. She was the daughter of a prominent Tucson heart surgeon. Gretchen was a thin, pretty, but nervous 17-year-old with a knack for trouble. Her teacher described her as erratic, subversive, a psychopathic liar. So there are two peas in one pod.
Right. And why is he making them work to get their money when his mom gives
I
him
don't know
fucking
why.
money?
Yeah, I don't understand why he's trying to get more money when he doesn't need it. What are you doing with your $3,000? Well, 300 then, but
yeah.
Yeah,
What are you doing with that money?
Like,
you couldn't buy a tape recorder. I'm sure tape recorder was like, what, $20?
yeah.
Come on.
I don't know. At the equestrian private school Gretchen attended for a time, she was a misfit, which is just Smitty's type.
Uh-huh.
She not only didn't care about horses, but she enjoyed shocking her classmates. She even told them they were stupid for going out with boys without getting paid for it. Once she even committed the unpardonable faux pas of turning up at a formal dance with boys wearing what was described as beatnik attire.
Oh, my. Gotta have those beatniks.
She cut classes, was suspected of stealing, and when in the summer before her senior year, she got into trouble with juvenile authorities for her role in an attempted theft of a liquor store, the headmaster suggested she not return and then recommended she get psychiatric treatment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Gretchen was right up there, right up Smitty's alley there.
I agree with all that.
Smitty saw Gretchen for the first time at a public swimming pool in the summer of 1964. He met her by following her home like a creeper, knocking on the door, and when she answered saying, "Do I know you?" Only a troubled teenager would fall for such a pickup tactic.
Oh, my.
They talked for an hour. After that, they began a passionate but very toxic relationship.
So this dude follows her home and she talks to him for an hour.
Yeah. And then
they have a relationship.
Yeah.
But I would slam the door in his face and be like, why the fuck did you follow me
I wouldn't
home?
have answered it in the first place.
Well, you don't know it. You don't know who it is.
Exactly. I don't answer the door
Well, I mean,
unless I know who it is.
if it's nighttime, I don't answer the door.
I don't.
During
the
the
day.
day, I open it, I
Sometimes,
answer.
like, even if I do know who it is, like,
You don't answer. I
Yeah.
do the same thing.
Like,
I sit on the couch really, really still.
I peek and see who it is. And I'm like, nope.
And then when they stop knocking, I look out the window.
Yeah. Same.
But sometimes I answer the door because I have a lot of kids in my neighborhood that come sell stuff, like candy bars and stuff.
Yeah, I don't buy that shit. No.
Why?
Because I got 6 nieces and nephews.
That's
man.
true. Yeah,
I'm
that's
tapped
true.
out.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't really buy from them that often either.
I buy for my nieces and nephew.
Well, it gets
It's
expensive. Because if you buy from one, you feel like you got
Gotta
to buy from them all.
That's why I only buy one thing. And they're like, but I need $40 to get me to the next level. Well, you better ask somebody else,
Yeah.
kid, because I'm only spending $15.
Yeah. A good deal of what authorities know of the development of this relationship come from the statements of Richie Bruns. At the time Smitty was becoming involved with Gretchen, Richie was 18 years old. He had served 2 terms in the reformatory at Fort Grant. He had been in and out of trouble his whole life, had never fit in anywhere, another perfect misfit for the Pied Piper of Tucson.
Of course.
Yet, although he never went beyond the 10th grade in school, and his credibility on many counts is questionable, he is clearly intelligent and even sensitive. He was, for a time, Smitty's closest friend and confidant. So,
So the other dude wasn't?
John.
Yeah.
They were all good friends.
Oh, okay.
John, Paul, and Richie. And Mary.
Okay.
And now Gretchen.
Jesus. Okay.
Well, Mary and Gretchen, they didn't know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he was being a player.
Yeah, he was. So this is what Richie said. He and Gretchen were always fighting. She didn't want him to drink or go out with the guys or go out with other girls. She wanted him to stay home, call her on the phone, be punctual. First, she would get suspicious of him, And then he gets suspicious of her. They were made for each other.
Oh, yeah.
Their-
Nothing like a toxic relationship.
Their mutual jealousy led to constant arguments. Once she infuriated him by throwing a bottle of shoe polish on his car, which that pissed me off too. Like, especially
But it would come off.
Will shoe polish come off?
I don't know. I would assume.
I'm thinking of, like, my dad had, like, it was kind of like a black stain for his dress shoes
Okay.
that he would use to polish them.
Oh,
So I'm
maybe
thinking it's a stain.
It's a stain?
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of shoe polish.
Okay. I can see that. I'm thinking, the car's got the, top coat on it that it'll just
Wash
wipe right off. Yeah.
I don't know. I would think it
Okay.
would be more like a paint type deal.
Okay.
A stain. Another time she was driving past Smitty's house and saw that there was some other girls there. She jumped out of her car and began screaming. Smitty took off into the house, out the back, and climbed a tree in his backyard like a coward. His feelings for her were an odd mixture of hate and adoration. He said he was madly in love with her, but he called her a whore in the same breath.
Oh, my.
She would let Smitty in her bedroom window at night, yet he wrote an anonymous letter to the Tucson Health Department accusing her of having venereal diseases and spreading it about town. Smitty,
This is definitely a toxic
yeah,
relationship.
Smitty also went to great lengths to impress Gretchen, once shooting holes through the windows of his car and telling her that thugs from whom he was protecting her had fired at him.
Oh, my.
So this is all different stories that Richie told them about their relationship.
Yeah.
On the evening of August 16th, 1965, Gretchen Fritz left the house with her little sister Wendy, a friendly, spunky 13-year-old, to go to a drive-in movie. Unfortunately, neither girl ever made it back home.
Oh.
Gretchen's father, like Eileen's mother, knew that Charles Schmid had something to do with his daughter's disappearances, and eventually he hired Bill Heilig, a private detective, to investigate it. One of Heilig's men soon found Gretchen's red compact car parked behind a motel, but the police continued to assume that the girls had joined the ranks of Tucson's runaways. Like, I don't understand why they just automatically assume, oh, it's a missing kid. Oh,
Do they have that
They
many
ran away.
runaways that they just classify everybody as a runaway?
I don't know.
Like, is that such an epidemic of runaways that they're just like, oh, she's just another one?
These-
Like,
They're incompetent, these policemen. Not every child is a runaway.
right.
Maybe try investigating first, and then if evidence points to the conclusion, fine. But until then, maybe try looking for them.
Right.
Oh, just an
That's
idea.
just a thought. We police better than the police. Try to say that again.
Yeah. About a week after Gretchen disappeared, Gretchen.
It's getting late.
I know. It's past my bedtime. About a week after Gretchen disappeared, Richie was at Smitty's house. So this is another quote. We were sitting in the living room, Richie recalls. He was sitting on the sofa and I was in the chair by the window, and we got on the subject of Gretchen. He said, "You know, I killed her, right?" I said, "I didn't." And he said, "You know where?" I said, "No." He said, "I did it here in the living room. First I killed Gretchen, then Wendy was still going, huh, huh, huh. So here Richie showed how Smitty made a strangling gesture. Then I took the bodies and put them in the trunk of the car. I put the bodies in the most obvious place I could think of because I just didn't care anymore. Then I ditched the car and wiped it clean." Richie wasn't really fazed by Smitty's admission. Months before, Smitty had told him of the murder of Eileen Rowe, and nothing had come of that. So he wasn't certain Smitty was telling the truth about the Fritz girls, but he didn't really care either way. Besides, Richie hated Gretchen himself, so
He didn't care.
he didn't care. But what happened next, still according to Richie's story, did shake him up. So one night, not long after, a couple of tough-looking guys wearing expensive suits and smoking cigars came by with Smitty and picked up Richie. Smitty said they were mafia and that someone had hired them to look for Gretchen. Smitty and Richie were taken to an apartment where several men were present, whom Smitty later claimed to have recognized as local Cosa Nostra figures. I didn't know what Cosa Nostra meant, so I did what anybody else would do, and I Googled it. It's another name for the U.S. Mafia. Cosa Nostra is Italian for our thing.
Is he Italian?
Smitty?
Yeah.
No.
Then why the fuck would he?
Well, it's just the mafia, I guess.
Like the real mafia?
The real mafia.
Oh, I thought he was making this up.
No.
Okay.
No, apparently.
Okay. All right, I get it now.
Yeah. They wanted to know what had happened to the girls. They made no threats, but the message, Richie remembers, came across loud and clear. These were no street corner punks. These guys were the real deal. In spite of the intimidating company, Smitty lost none of his air of indifference. He said he didn't know where Gretchen was, but if she turned up hurt, he wanted these men to help him get whoever was responsible. He added that she might have gone to California. Just side note.
Whatever.
Yeah, she might have gone to California. By the time Smitty and Richie got back to Smitty's house, they were both a little shaky. Later that night, says Richie, Smitty did the most unlikely thing imaginable. He called the FBI.
Jesus Christ.
First, he tried the Tucson office and couldn't raise anyone. Then he called the Phoenix and couldn't get an agent there either. Finally, he put in a person-to-person call to J. Edgar Hoover in Washington.
Oh, my.
He didn't get Hoover, of course, but he got someone and told him that the mafia was harassing him over the disappearance of a girl. The FBI promised to have someone in touch with him soon.
Oh, my.
Richie was scared shitless and said so. It occurred to him now that if Smitty really had killed the Fritz girls and left their bodies in an obvious place, they were in very bad trouble indeed.
Mm-hmm.
With the mafia on one hand and the FBI on the other.
What a dumbass.
Let's go bury them, Richie said.
Wow.
Smitty stole the keys to his old man's station wagon, says Richie. And then we got a flat shovel, the only one we could find. We went to Johnny's and got a hamburger.
They were hungry.
And then we drove out to the old drinking spot in the desert. That's where Smitty Smet. That's where Smitty meant when he said the most obvious place. It's where we used to drink beer and make out with girls.
Oh, boy.
So we parked the car and got the shovel and walked down there, and we couldn't find anything. Then Smitty said, "Wait, I smell something." We went in opposite directions looking, and then I heard Smitty say, "Come here." I found him kneeling over Gretchen. There was a white rag tied around her legs. Her blouse was pulled up, and she was wearing a white bra and capris. Then he said, "Wendy's up this way." I sat there for a minute. Then I followed Smitty to where Wendy was. He'd had the decency to cover her except for one leg, which was sticking up out of the ground. We tried to dig with the flat shovel. We each took turns. He'd dig for a while, and then I'd dig for a while, but the ground was hard, and we couldn't get anywhere with the flat shovel. We dug for 20 minutes, and finally Smitty said we'd better do something because it's going to get light. So he grabbed the rag that was around Gretchen's legs and dragged her down into the wash. It made a noise like dragging a hollow shell.
Oh.
It stunk like hell. Then Smitty said, "Wipe off her shoes. There might be fingerprints." So I wiped them off with my handkerchief and threw it away. We went back to Wendy. Her leg was sticking up with a shoe on it. He said, "Take off her tennis shoe and throw it over there." I did. I threw it. Then he said, "Now you're in this as deep as I am." By then, the sisters had been missing for about 2 weeks. So, the
decomposition.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly by then.
Oh, yeah.
In the hot desert. Oh, I can't even imagine.
And again, they got lazy because the ground was too hard, and they just left her leg hanging out, just like the other guy left her whole fucking body hanging out pretty much.
Yep. Early the next morning, Smitty did see the FBI. Nevertheless, here Richie's story grows even wilder. That same day, Smitty left for California, accompanied by a couple of mafia types, to look for Gretchen Fritz. While there, he was picked up by the San Diego police on a complaint that he was impersonating an FBI officer. He was detained briefly, released, and returned to Tucson. But now, it seemed to Richie, Smitty began acting very strange. He startled Richie by saying, "I've killed not 3 times, but 4. Now it's your turn, Richie." He went berserk in his little house, smashing his fist through a wall, slamming doors, then rushing out into the backyard in nothing but his underwear. When he ran through the night screaming, "God is going to punish me," he also decided suddenly to get married to a 15-year-old girl who was a stranger to most of his friends. So Smitty's lost it.
Clearly.
If Smitty seemed to Richie to be losing it, Richie himself was not in much better shape. His particular quirk revolved around Kathy Morath, the thin, pretty 16-year-old daughter of Tucson postman. Kathy had once been attracted to Smitty, and she was one of the girls that he gave the $13 engagement ring to.
Okay.
But Smitty never really took her seriously, and one day, in a fit of jealousy, she threw the ring back in his face. Richie comforted her and then started dating her himself. He soon fell for her deeply. Kathy accepted Richie as a boyfriend, but only half-heartedly. She thought he was weird. Oddly enough, she did not think Smitty was even a little bit weird, and their romance was short-lived. After she broke up with him last July, Richie went into a funk. Then he started pouring his heart out to her. He sent her poems, short stories, and letters 24 pages long.
Oh my. That's worse than a friend's letter.
Yeah.
You remember that letter?
Yes. Yep. Front and back.
Front and back. 18 pages?
I don't remember how many exactly.
Front and back?
Yeah. If Richie had confined himself to literally catharsis, the murders of the Roe and Fritz girls might have been disclosed. But Richie went a little bit around the bend. He became obsessed with the notion that Kathy was going to be Smitty's next victim. Someone had cut her screen door, and there had been a prowler around her house, and he was sure it was Smitty. Although Kathy and her father thought it was Richie because, he was becoming like a stalker.
Because he liked her.
Yeah.
18 pages.
18, yeah.
Yeah, because he went crazy. He got into a funk and was
was obsessed about her,
Mm-hmm.
and he was convinced that Smitty was going to kill her. "I started having this dream," Richie said. "It was the same dream every night. Smitty would have Kathy out in the desert, and he'd be doing all those things to her and strangling her, and I'd be running across the desert with a gun in my hand, but I could never get there." Which I'm sure,
What a dream to have, though. Like, waking up to that feeling of, I can't save her.
And I can understand his obsession with her, like, because he saw what Smitty did. He knows that
what he's capable of.
Yeah, so I totally get it. He undertook to stand guard over Kathy, so he would watch the front of her house, the alleyway, and the street. He would patrol the sidewalk from early in the morning until late at night, 7 days a week.
Oh my.
If Kathy was home, he would be there too. If she went anywhere, he would like watch her from the shadows, just keeping an eye on her at all
Yeah.
time. Kathy's father finally called the police. And when they told Richie he couldn't loiter around like that, he fetched his dog and walked the animal up and down the block hour after hour.
I mean, that's pretty creative. That's pretty smart.
Richie, by now, was wallowing in his feelings of sacrifice and nobility, all of it unappreciated by Kathy and her parents. At the end of October, he was finally arrested for harassing her. The judge, facing the obviously smitten young man, told Richie that he wouldn't be jailed if he agreed to get out of town until he got over his infatuation with her.
Oh, my.
So Richie agreed, and a few days later went to Ohio to stay with his grandmother and tried to get a job. It was hopeless, though. He couldn't sleep at night, and if he did doze off, he had his old nightmare again. One night, he blurted out the whole story to his grandmother in their kitchen. She thought he had had too many beers and didn't believe him. "I hear beers do strange things to a person," she said comfortingly.
Is that your old lady voice?
That is.
Okay.
At her words, Richie exploded, knocked over a chair, and shouted, "The one time in my life when I need advice, and what do I get?" A few minutes later, he was on the phone to Tucson police. Things happened swiftly after that. At Richie's frantic insistence, the police picked up Kathy and put her in protective custody. They went into the desert and discovered, precisely as Richie had described to them, the grisly skeletal remains of Gretchen and Wendy Fritz. They started the process that resulted in the arrest a week later of John Saunders and Mary French. They found Charles Schmid, a.k.a. Smitty, working in the yard of his little house, his face layered with makeup, his nose covered by a patch of adhesive plaster, which he had worn for 5 months, boasting that his nose was broken in a fight.
I was wondering what that was on his nose in that picture.
Yeah. And his boots packed full of old rags and tin cans. He put up no resistance. Back at the police station, Smitty heard the tapes of Richie telling it all. They brought Richie into the room in the hope that having him confront Smitty would get a confession. The two young men glared at each other, and Smitty said, "I know why you're doing this." Nevertheless, Smitty protested his innocence and said he would prove it at the trial. They booked him for 2 murders. At the booking, they asked him to remove his boots. He
was pissed.
He was reluctant to do so, and when he did, he was several inches shorter. Photographers from the press crowded in, and he sat down, refusing to stand for them. The contents of the boots filled 2 shoe boxes with folded up rags, flattened beer cans covered with more rags, and pieces of cardboard.
Okay, my question is your boot.
The logistics of it, like how
do you have that much when the boot curves? How did your foot get in there?
Maybe he just bought really too big of cowboy boots.
Maybe he walked like this
on his tiptoes.
Yeah,
I don't
so you
know.
don't need to go all the way in.
Yeah,
you can just go straight down.
Why didn't he just buy a boot with a little bit of a heel on it?
Right. Or back then, I'm sure they had lifts that you put inside your shoe.
Yeah, I he had money. He could have had a shoe created for him.
True.
This was unnecessary.
And it was the 60s?
Yeah.
So it was almost the 70s?
Yeah.
Disco was happening. You could have got platforms.
He should have just waited. Smitty was held without bail until the hearing, set for December 13th. The police got a warrant to search Smitty's house, looking for a guitar without a string, which they did not find. Then one officer flew to Connecticut to pick up John Saunders, and another went to Texas to get Mary French. After she was told that Smitty had married, she said, "Fuck it," and gave a detailed statement.
Oh, my.
Saunders, too, confessed, but maintained that Smitty had done the actual killing. When taken to the murder location, he was unable to locate the grave. Mary, too, could not help, although the search turned up 2 rusty hair curlers. Norma Rowe identified them as belonging to her daughter. An intensive search was begun, including a crew of high school students. The area was dug up every which way, but to no avail. Sheriff Burr believed that a hurricane in September of '64 might have washed the bones to another location. County Attorney Norman Green said that he would proceed with or without a body. There was precedent and he would exploit it. At the preliminary hearing, John pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. Mary agreed to plead to lesser charges, and both were to testify for the state against Smitty. On November 30th, Smitty was bound over for trial in Superior Court. John was sentenced a week later to life in prison, eligible for parole in 7 years. Mary was charged as an accessory to murder and with concealing and compounding of felony. She would be eligible for parole in 4 to 5 years. Smitty's trial for the murders of Gretchen and Wendy Fritz was scheduled for February 15th, 1966.
Hey.
That's Amanda's birthday.
That's my birthday. Not 56, though.
66.
66. I was not born in 66.
You weren't?
No.
I thought you were old.
Yeah, I am old, but not that old.
And the state would go for the death penalty. He would stand trial for the murder of Arlene Rowe on March 15th, also a death penalty case.
So even though they didn't find her body,
they were still going to
charge him
mm-hmm.
and try him?
Yep.
Good.
In 1966, Smitty was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. When the state of Arizona temporarily abolished capital punishment
of course.
In 1971, Smitty's sentence was commuted to 50 years in prison. After Smitty's trial and conviction, his adoptive mother and her second husband had owed her son's legal team more money than they possessed. As a result, they ended up living in near poverty in Coolidge, Arizona.
Okay.
So they went from
being rich
to being poor.
And for your ungrateful adopted child that you took in as your own and treated him as your own and never treated him as an adopted kid.
Who's a fucking murderer. Like, I'm sorry, if my kid ever killed somebody else intentionally, she deserves to go to prison. I'm not going to spend money trying to get her out of it.
Right.
You deserve it. This is your consequence. I love you. I will always love you.
But I'm not condoning this kind of behavior.
No, you deserve to be in there.
Right. Did you just flip off your phone?
No.
Oh, I thought you were like,
yeah, fuck you.
Like, he's not here. You cannot see you.
No. I'm playing with
your
my
FBI
hair.
person can see you.
Yeah, there you go. Smitty attempted to escape from prison multiple times, finally succeeding on November 11th, 1972, when he and triple murderer Raymond Hudgens escaped from Arizona State Prison. They held 4 hostages on a ranch near Tempe for a time, 8 at a Sonic, then separated, and were recaptured and returned to prison.
Oh, my.
In the early 1970s, Smitty became interested in poetry. He sent his work from prison to Richard Shelton, a professor at the University of Arizona. For all the wrong reasons, I critiqued his work and discovered that he was quite talented, Shelton later said.
Oh, gosh.
On March 20th, 1975, Smitty was stabbed 47 times by 2 fellow prisoners. After losing an eye and a kidney, he died from his injuries 10 days later on March 30th, 1975.
Good.
His body was stolen from the morgue and recovered by police. Smitty's mother chose the prison cemetery for his burial, believing his tombstone would be defaced if he were buried in a public cemetery, which I believe it would have been,
yeah,
too.
Absolutely.
He received a Catholic funeral at the prison, but his body was not in the casket during the service. The 2 prisoners who killed him were Jimmy Farah and Dennis Eversole. both of whom pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for Schmid's death.
Did they say why?
And received additional time in prison. No, it didn't say why they killed them. I'm pretty sure just because
he's an asshole.
He was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Farah was originally sent to prison for an unrelated murder, while Eversole was serving time for multiple armed robberies. So he went from just robberies to killing Smitty, because fuck that dude.
Fuck that dude.
And that is the life and death of the Pied Piper of Tucson, Charles Schmid Jr. Smitty. And a real piece of shit.
Yeah. He's a real winner, ladies.
Yeah.
Look at his picture. You'll fall in love.
No, seriously. Look at it. Like that mole that he puts on his face.
You're going to post a picture on our...
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's
take
ridiculous.
a look at it.
It's ridiculous. Like, why he thought that was attractive, I don't know.
It's not attractive.
At all.
No. It's like really... I want to...
It's
blurry. It's like blurry,
big.
but like it also looks really hairy. Like,
yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Like it's not attractive.
No.
Maybe if he was trying to do like
maybe
the
like
beauty mark,
Marilyn Monroe type.
Yeah, just a pretty little beauty mark. It's fine. But no, this is like, it looks like he smashed a bug on his face.
Yeah.
It's just it's
like
big and it's ugly.
Piece of tar the size of a pea.
It's bigger than that.
It is bigger than a pea.
I would say probably like the size of a dime.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's just, yeah, it's not attractive.
It's like a blueberry smashed on his face.
Yeah, there you go.
It's gross. It's gross.
Well, that was a little bit of a longer one for you guys. Sorry about that, but...
Except for my short one.
Yeah, I just... And I even, like, once I realized how long it was getting, I started to condense as much as possible. But... I just didn't want to have to stick you with another two-parter, so you can find a lot more on him if you wanted to. So if you're interested, look him up. There's lots there, and he's a real piece of shit. If you have any spooky stories, again, send them to us. We want to hear them. We want to read them.
We'll omit your name if you don't want us to say your name on the podcast, or we can say your name, or we can change it. It's up to you guys. Just let us know.
Yeah. You can check out our Facebook. We're on there. We're on Instagram.
Spine Chilling Chats, but it's Spine-Chilling Chats.
And you can check out our website, which is spine-chillingchatspodcast.com. We have a little bio on there to get to know us.
Our pictures.
Our store with some really neato merch. Check it out. You can send us emails straight from there. Just get a hold of us.
Our email address, you didn't say it.
Oh, our email is spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com, and there is no hyphen in the spine chilling.
Right.
Yeah,
that's it. Send us some messages, guys.
Yeah, we
buy some merch.
We want to be friends.
Right.
Like,
we're cool people. I think we're cool people.
Oh, of course.
Man.
And if you're listening to this, you're pretty cool too.
Yeah,
we should hang out.
Maybe you could be a guest. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe we'll just be pen pals.
Maybe we can Skype. Who Skypes anymore? But we can do it.
Is Skype even like...
I don't know. FaceTime.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it FaceTime now? Yeah. I don't know how to do that either. I'm old.
I know how to FaceTime.
Oh, okay. You can show me.
Yeah. I'll show you. FaceTime's usually only in an iPhone, so...
Oh, that's why. I have the Android.
Yeah, she's a green person.
Yeah.
But we could FaceTime.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we are on Facebook, guys. We said that, so, hit us up.
We hope you come back, and we hope you
keep it spooky.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.
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 Thanks for joining us on Spine Chilling Chats, your go-to podcast for all things murder, paranormal, and macabre. Keep sipping that spooky tea and diving into the darkness with us. If our tales have sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit subscribe and share with your fellow lovers of the haunting and horrific. See you next time.